You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
Welcome to the Catholic Mama, where you'll learn how to deepen and defend your faith, find comfort as we share the vocation of parenthood, and learn how to raise your children confidently Catholic. I'm your host, Christine Mooney Flynn. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Catholic Mama podcast. I'm your host, Christine Mooney Flynn, and I am so glad that you're here with me today as I have actually two guests on the show simultaneously. And these are Alan Migliorato, I hope I said that right, and Darryl Dziedzic. And they gave me a very short instruction on how to pronounce their last names before the podcast. They can maybe say it in their native ways coming up. But I first want to say that we are going to be talking about their book called Failing Forward, which is geared towards giving leadership skills to Catholic teens. But man, as I was reading it through, it's a good reminder for me, even as a parent of young children, and even for myself, about how good failure actually is if done correctly. So I'm excited to get to talk to you, to these fine gentlemen about this today. But first, I'm going to step aside, and Alan or Darryl, I don't know if you want to duke it out and decide who gets to go first, but if you wouldn't mind telling the listeners a little bit more about yourselves.
Why don't you
go ahead, Alan. Do it, bud. It's all you.
Want me to talk about you, or I talk about me? Which would be better?
Talk about you. You do it so well.
Okay, all right, perfect. So my name's Alan Migliorato, and I'm the author and co-author of Failing Forward. I've also written another book called The Manly Art of Raising a Daughter. Both are published by Sophia Press, which we'd like to give a shout out to because they're pretty awesome. And I've also got three daughters, and I've been married for 27 years. This December will be 27 years. I own a small business in the Orlando area, and I have a youth ministry certification from the University of Dayton. Been in youth ministry and in ministry for about a decade now.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Darryl, you're up.
I can't follow that. That was so profound. You're killing me here. Hi, guys. My name is Darryl Dziedzic. I am currently a youth minister at a parish here in Orlando, and spent time in seminary. Did seminary time, but I got released on vocational recognizance. Ended up married. Out of that marriage, I have two wonderful boys. Sadly, unlike Alan, I did not last 27 years, but by the grace of God, I have an annulment. So we walking through that process. Ended up getting my degree in philosophy with a minor in theology, and finished my master's degree in theology, and spent my whole career pretty much in ministry.
Wow. It sounds like you're both cradle Catholics then.
Oh,
we are.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I'm always amazed. I've heard this on both ends. Cradle Catholics will say, it's so interesting to hear people who convert. I'm a convert, but then I am so amazed that cradle Catholics, especially as you get older and you're still in the faith and you're promoting the faith to others. It's now that I'm raising cradle Catholics, it's very good for me to hear because everybody I know that was Catholic in my family left the faith. So I'm so glad that there's a whole life, hopefully, ahead of my children of the Catholic.
That's one of the reasons that we wrote this book, is to keep kids connected to their faith and to help parents learn the skills on how to do that. That's a big reason that Darryl and I sat down and came up with this training method that we have in the book in Failing Forward called COPEC, is our method but it helps connect kids with their parents and helps connect kids with the church, and it helps connect parents with the church. It's just a really strong method for parents to use to keep them connected.
Yeah, I was even reading about maybe not small for some parents, a small challenge of letting your kid cook you a whole meal from start to finish, shopping and everything. I was trying to put myself in those shoes 10 years from now, and my son is possibly old. My oldest would be old enough to do something like that. And I was getting a little sweaty just thinking about releasing that kind of control or sense of control, illusion of control over everything. So that's a really good reminder, again, for me as the parent of younger kids. I can start to increase how much independence and leadership skills I'm imparting on them. So did this all start, your ideas of how to do this, because of your own ages of the ages of your own children, or is this through the ministry that you all do?
Alan, let me handle this one. It all
That's
started.
Darryl, why don't you go ahead, Darryl, and then I'll follow up with the correct answer. But I think it's a good idea for you to get your voice out there. So go ahead.
I think I should. Yeah, Alan. I think it all started when Alan wanted to bring a bunch of kids into the woods camping. And so we that's kind of the truth of it. But the reality is, so we're in youth ministry together, and Alan came to me. He's like, dude, we gotta take kids in the woods camp. He's like, gotta take them camping, do something social. I said, well, if we're gonna do that, we gotta do some sort of God element. You know, we don't want this to be just a social event. We need to have some faith aspect. So we kind of sat down with those parameters and started just brainstorming what was out there, what in the national picture, what was out there for teens. And as as a mom, you'll probably want to start reading the church document if you haven't already, called Renewing the Vision. And
okay.
It lays out 3 goals for youth, for ministry, for our kids. And anyway, so there's a couple of the goals were being addressed, but the third one wasn't. The third goal was the overall formation and well-being of the child. And so we kind of started looking at that, and we tackled it and going, you know what, this is a great opportunity to fulfill that third goal. You know, there's a lot of programs that bring kids directly into intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. There's a lot of service camps out there, but there's nothing that challenges kids from a character, psychological, developmental aspect, but yet is rooted in faith, so that they can always realize that God is a part of their maturation process. So that's kind of about 90 days, Alan, would you say? We threw something together in 60 days? I don't know, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm shaking my head like we're on video. Yes, that's about the time frame, Darryl. Yeah, and then so when we started putting our book Failing Forward together, it was the reason we came up with that for directing it toward parents was that we had parents. Can you hear me? Okay,
Steve?
Oh, I can hear everybody.
I can't hear Alan. I don't know why. Maybe.
Oh, by the grace of God.
Yeah. Okay. From my lips to his ears.
There you
Sorry,
go.
Christine.
That's okay.
We're friends. We are.
It used to be. So
until the book writing process, right?
Right.
Christine, we'd have parents coming up to us after we did our leadership formation training with their kids and saying, what did you do? Like, my kid is a completely different person. You know, they're wanting to go to church. They're wanting to make their bed. They're wanting to cut the lawn. They're wanting to help with dinner. They're helping with laundry. What did you do to our kids? Wow. And so we figured, why don't we put together this method for parents to use at home? And the reason it's such a powerful tool at home is because the parents are the first catechists of the faith. And if they're doing at home what they expect the church to take care of for them in an hour or so a week at church, imagine how much more connected these children will be to God. If you're talking about God and you're involving God in every aspect of your child's life, imagine how much closer they'll be to God than if they only get it once a week for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, the difference of being physically fit and taking walks and exercising every day, rather than just getting like a weekend warrior 1 day workout in. Right?
Exactly.
Spread it out. Yeah, that's really interesting. I had something I wanted to say and then it went away. Oh, that's so sad.
It's Darryl. Darryl does that.
It was. I think it was about goal 3. Oh, shoot.
You'll find it, Christine. Don't worry about it.
I will. So wait, let's with the youth ministry, when you wanted to, have you seen? I know in the book you talk about that the camping trip and the Eagle Scouts and forgetting to actually pack the food that you were in charge of. Are you letting your kid, like the kids that go out with you on these ministry events, are you letting them fail big in that way? I mean, not that you want them to fail big.
Great question. Yeah. Alan, do you want to tell it or should we tell it? What do you want to do?
I'll do it, man.
Right,
so here's the thing, Christine. It's what we're going to talk about right now is how we came up with this method. But please understand that this is not for parents to say, well, I don't run a youth camp, so I can't do this. This is something that we have honed in and funneled into parents' lives at home. But this is where it came out of. So I don't mind talking about that. I just want to make sure that parents aren't listening thinking, well, my gosh, I don't want to run a youth camp, so this book is not for me. Failing Forward is for the parents at home. But the way that this came about was we had this leadership, this training through Adventure Catholic. It's the name of our ministry is Adventure Catholic. AdventureCatholic.com, Saturday only. No, it's but Adventure Catholic is a leadership formation training tool that we use with the teens, and that COPEC method is outlined in the book. But let me give you just a little taste of some of the things that we've done. So when we go camping with these kids, we go on a 4-day expedition with these teenagers, right? And they do all of the planning. All we do is show up and pay for the camping at the park. They sometimes get a small budget to buy food with, but that's it. We don't tell them what to buy. We don't tell them what to bring. We don't tell them what to show up with. They're going to fail or they're going to succeed on their own. And then they're going to learn from that failure. So about 3 summers ago, we had a group of kids who are a little bit more maybe immature in some aspects, or maybe they were just hungry when they were going shopping. But we went, we go shopping with them and we don't say, hey, make sure you're getting eggs, make sure you're getting milk. Well, this group bought for breakfast for 11 days for 30 people. They bought 11 watermelons, right? They bought a dozen eggs, and they bought, cereal, and they had maybe 2 gallons of milk and 8 gallons of orange juice. Now they each had, and the way that this came up, and we're watching this, and we're not saying a word, we're watching it happen. So they were given the challenge, and that's the first step in our COPEC method. It's COPEC. We have challenge, observe, process, evaluate, and challenge again. So the challenge was you have to buy enough food for the camp for 4 days. We observed them by not saying a word, by not interacting with them at all, just observing. If we're interacting, we're not observing. We're building little robots, and we don't want robots. We want leaders. So we observed them. We watched them buy 2 gallons of milk for 30 people and expect it to last for 4 days. But we let it happen. So after the first day at camp, they ran out of milk after the first breakfast. So lunch came up, and some kids wanted milk, and they said, we don't have any more milk. So we're not saying anything. We're just watching them fail. And then the next morning, they're like, hey, we need more milk. Can we run to the store? And Darryl and I are like, well, no, we can't go to the store. You had your opportunity to shop. Now it's time to camp. And like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you think you should do? And we push it back to them. It's like, what do you want me to do? I don't know. What do you think you should do? And one kid had his tent pole break. He goes, hey, my tent pole broke. What do I do? I go, oh my gosh, I don't know. What do you think you should do? Let them process it. Let them work themselves out of this problem. If every time you have a runny nose, your mom wipes it for you, what's going to happen when you go off to college? You're just going to have a drippy nose the whole time. You got to think of things like that.
Yeah.
If you never teach your kids to tie their shoes because you're always tying it for them, they're going to trip over them the first time they leave home and you're not there. So this method, our COPEC method outlined in Failing Forward, is designed for parents to start raising leaders. The point where most parents fail, and I'm sure Darryl can tell you, the point most parents fail here is in the observe portion of our method. Because
I got to tell you, I felt the heat reading that part.
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's hard to do, especially because we know my wife has a big problem with this. Excuse me. We're out shopping with these kids, and she's watching. And she's like, Alan. She's like, they don't have any bug spray. I said, let it go. And she's like, well, they need bug spray. It's summer. It's in Florida. It's in June. You got to put a leash on a mosquito here. And she's like, but they're going to get bit. And I'm like, yeah, they are. You're right. But their parents are going to be mad. I'm like, they probably will be. There's nothing life-threatening. There's not really a safety value that we're stopping this process for. They didn't get bug sprayed. They got not enough milk. They got too much orange juice. They got too much watermelon. Nothing is going to kill them there. So we let it happen.
Yeah. So what did they do? How, did everybody figure it out? Or were you guys hungry for the next couple days?
Inquiring minds want to know. They had cereal with orange juice for the next 3 days.
And water.
And water.
There you go.
Yeah, they ran out of orange juice the second or third day, and then they started using water.
And then they ran out of watermelon.
Yeah, and tons of water now. But they ran out of regular water, but they had a faucet at the campsite that had sulfur water coming out of it. So it stinks, but the good benefit of sulfur water is it keeps mosquitoes away. So there's always a good. God always packs something good inside something that's difficult.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is so good. You mentioned in the book, can you imagine that, you do the project for your kids, they go off and their boss later on is never going to help them the night before a project is due. Mm-hmm. Then you're just going to fail and you'll maybe be in trouble. That's such a good point. I mean, because I think we often as parents play the short game. We're not playing the long game, and we're here to raise strong, confident Catholic leaders, right? Not just, kids that will do things our way.
Both like a true golfer. Yes, the short game.
Yeah.
No, parents don't like their kids to fail because it hurts their feelings, not because their kids' feelings are going to get hurt.
Yeah. If you look at it too, I was thinking, in the New Testament, I mean, we see mistakes happen throughout the entire Bible. But my goodness, I mean, the apostles just make mistakes and fail all the time, but they don't stop trying. They challenge again, right? And then Jesus always welcomes them, even when they're making their mistakes. So it's got a very good biblical rooting.
Christine, and this is why I enjoy talking to you, because you're probably one of the few people that have actually made that connection. And that's really the other deeper purpose of why we wrote this book, is to take everyday experiences and everyday formation and training and to tie that into exactly what Christ does. God is exactly like that. He lets us make our own choices and fail. And if we need help, we can reach out to him. And when we fail big, we can always go back to him in the sacrament of reconciliation. Do you know what I'm saying? And make a turnaround. So I think that's where that, we're trying to reach parents with that gospel message through their everyday experience.
Yeah. And it seems like it, you don't want the Catholic part of our lives to be separate from everything else. It needs to be woven in. It sounds like this is a perfect way to do it.
Exactly.
Far too often, parents are afraid to let their kids know that they failed, though. And think about Jesus, when he says, "This is my body and this is my blood." He doesn't say this is kind of like my body and this is kind of like my blood. And when he sees people walking away because they can't accept that teaching, he doesn't change the teaching. He's not saying it to hurt anyone's feelings. He's not saying it to make anyone feel awkward. But the truth is the truth, and you can't soften the truth. So when your kids fail at something, 10 teams in a tournament all playing basketball, they all get the same trophy when they're done. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Not that your kids know that they failed is crazy.
It's a lie. It's a lie. Immoral, yeah.
It's incredibly immoral because they think, and the kids know who won the game when you don't keep score. And I told this story the other day when we were talking to somebody with Darryl, and I used to coach for CYL. And years ago, they stopped keeping score for the younger kids. Well, I was like, "You're kidding." And they're like, "No, we just don't want anyone's feelings to be hurt." And I said, "This is a huge mistake, guys." But they went on with it. And so the very first game, the first goal that the kids scored, they were like, "Hey, that's 1-0." Yeah. I mean, the kids know. And when we pretend that everyone's equal, with abilities, then they're wondering why later on, well, then I didn't get hired because they just don't like me. And now you become a victim. Now you become a narcissist. We're trying to stop all this stuff from happening. We speak the truth with love. Look, you failed. Well, why did I fail? Why didn't I do good today? I don't know. You tell me why you didn't do good. And that's the process part of our method, is let the kids understand that they can figure this out on their own. Let them dive into their thought process, into their souls to figure out what went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very good. I put my kids in some basketball league a year or two ago, and at the end of the first game, they asked who won, and they didn't keep score. I was like, I don't know. It's like, well, I think we might have because we scored more. I mean, it's innate. They do know. They do know the difference between failing and succeeding.
Right.
And it is. I think the current situation that we're facing now is just a generation of people getting participation trophies, but that's a different conversation, I think.
No, that's actually, Christine, it's not a different conversation.
It's relevant.
This is exactly why we wrote that book. For the conversation you're bringing up, which thank you so much for doing that. And really part of that discussion when we put this together was it came up with that trophy for everybody garbage that's sitting out there. And and it doesn't have to be, we kind of overdo it to make a point, but, the other day with my youngest son, we were cooking dinner together, and I said, let's make sliders. And I pulled out all the spices. I said, you're in charge of spicing it up. And so, he was dumping spices on it, and I've done it for years cooking. So, but I could tell it was too much. So I had to even bite my tongue going, okay, slow down. And you know what happened? We ended up having a great night because he's like, oh, Dad, this is too much. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. It is too much. What would you do next time? I don't think I need it. This is a strong spice. And we had a whole night together of making these little burger sliders that some were great, some were terrible, but he learned. And you know what? We had a bonding experience. And so did he fail? Oh, sure, I guess. But he learned how to cook better. And I think, in anything we do, and we do competitive for when we take the kids out to train this, but, we are competitive by nature, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to be competitive to use the skills that God gave us. And he gave each and every one of us unique skills to use. And so I think the parents, not I think, but I'm sure, and I look at it as a parent too, there's times where, oh my gosh, my son is just recognizing a gift he has. He hasn't fully developed it, and therefore I got to step in because it reflects poorly on me. That's terrible. That's a terrible mindset. And so, Failing Forward is built for those parents who are like, you know what, I want a better way. I want to get into my kids' gifts and talents, and I want to methodically grow them, and let him and her feel confident in that growth process.
Yeah, and there's power. I'm sorry, Christine, go ahead.
Oh no, it's just, what a better place to fail than in your own home. A little,
Amen.
That's a safer place, and you can always get challenged again, and that way you've gotten it down by the time you're out in the world.
Well, and we say it we did an interview yesterday, and that's exactly what we brought up. Like, look, we want you to make small failures here with us so that you're smart enough to know what are the life-altering failures in the real world. And that's exactly what we should be doing in our houses. As the primary catechist, as the church teaches, is we've got to teach them how to overcome failures, but also to recognize what are the kind of failures you can recover from and what kind can you not.
Yeah, but far too often we have parents who are afraid to call their children out on something because they're afraid their feelings are going to get hurt. And we've raised this generation of kids who we wonder, why aren't they connected with the church? It's because we're not being parents at home. We're trying to be friends. We're trying to be, liked. And it doesn't mean that we have to be hated, but if you do everything the way Jesus did it, and that's what our goal is as parents, is to do everything the way Jesus did it. And as people is to do everything the way Jesus did it. We have that same spirit in us. But if we don't acknowledge our faults and our failures, we can't grow from them. There's a very big difference between acknowledging your failures and living in the pit of despair and acknowledging your failures and climbing out of that pit. And as parents, we go too far by saying, no, you didn't fail. And instantly our kids think that we're lying to them, and they know we are because they know they failed. So we've got to get past that. We've got to call it like it is and say, but yes, you did fail that math test, but I want to know why you think you failed. Tell me why you think you failed. I don't know. I studied. Okay. Did you study as much as you could? Yes. I studied till I couldn't sleep. I had to go to sleep. All right. Let's look at just yesterday. You were on, your Nintendo Switch for 3 hours. That's what I noticed. That's my being truthful with you. You were playing Nintendo for 3 hours. Those are times that you could have studied. Is that true or not? Well, yeah, I guess I could have. Okay, well, let's just be honest about it. So I don't want to hear I did my best if you didn't do your best. You know what? I could have done better. I really didn't give it a full effort. Okay, that's fine. Now we can move forward from that. But my biggest problem is when a kid will come up to you and tell you, I did my best. There's nothing else I could have done. The teacher just doesn't like me. That's a victim mentality, and we have to get away from that, because otherwise we end up with adults who can't make decisions and think everyone's out to get them.
Isn't that the truth? I grew up in a household of trying to make feelings everybody feel good. And so I totally get this, because as I was reading through the book, I was like, oof, I recognize that. And so I can already see I went off onto like a new age and an atheist and very liberal mindset, and much to my detriment. And so I can see where that personally led me, that kind of mindset. And thankfully I'm done with that, and I'm susceptible to reason. So I'm trying very desperately not to fall into that trap with my own children. But it is difficult because we don't like to see people suffer. But again, it's actually true. It's true mercy. It is real charity to tell a child, your own child, that they failed and help them to understand how they could have done better.
Amen.
Yeah. So, but I do it particularly like because there's oftentimes where we don't even know how to get that done, and who doesn't like an acronym? So, I mean, your whole formula is it seems like it makes it so easy. Like even as parents, we mess up and we overstep our bounds or jump in when we should have held back. It's so good that we can have something like this, the COPEC formula. Like we can even, do our own examination, say, well, I failed here. Let's challenge again.
And I'll tell you something, Christine, we still fail. Like Darryl and I still fail. The last time we did a camping trip with the kids, my own daughter was there and called me out on something because the kids couldn't get a fire started, right? The kids that were in charge of the fire. And they asked me to help. And I just wanted some marshmallows. I'll be honest. I just wanted some marshmallows and hot dogs over the fire. And I said, yeah. I said, give me the thing. I'll start the fire. And my daughter's sitting there like tapping her foot with her arms crossed. And I said, what's wrong? She goes, so you're just all talk. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, so this is a do as I say, not as I do moment, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, why didn't you let them fail? She goes, if you're not going to let them fail, why are we out here? And I was like, wow. I go, you're right. You're right. So the next night, the same thing happened. The kids came up to me and they're like, hey, can you help us with the fire again? I go, absolutely not. They said, well, we can't get it started. I go, I guess then we're not getting the fire tonight.
And Alan ain't getting his marshmallows.
And I said, I'm a big fat guy. I need my marshmallows.
Slow down, big boy. Big boy on a rampage. No marshmallows.
I got to tell you, that's actually a hard thing for me is that I tend to jump in because I have such limited time and my patience is kind of, it wanes and waxes throughout the day. But I tend to not just observe, but jump in because I'm so impatient to try to, fulfill some need of my own by getting my kids through whatever task they're trying to get there because it's personally painful for me to watch. But it's not about me, is it?
That's hard. Well, Christine, but you know what? At least you're a mom enough to admit it, and you're not the only one. I tend to be a little less patient than others that I run with. But I think that's a thing, and for you, because you're a woman enough to admit this as a mom, I'm going to personally coach you through the E of COPEC. For $19.99, you can upgrade. No, I'm teasing. But you can upgrade to my great coaching services. But really, that's where the process and the evaluation. It's actually the P. Really is the processing, and that's where most parents and even professional ministers fail. They want. I mean, case in point, we had my seniors in my youth group last December wanted to do we had the kids pick a service project, and they had to actually do it. So the seniors picked getting these blankets and socks and making like these goodie bags for our homeless. Well, I had another adult volunteer actually jump in and start like raising money, start buying, blankets. And those are all good on the surface. But the point was, it was for these kids to do it. Do you know?
Yeah.
And so as things would have it, through the course of that project, she, had to step out of ministry. And so I kind of stepped in to help with these kids. And so they kind of looked at me like, okay, what do we do? And I said, I don't know. This is your project. And they're like, okay. And they're like, well, we need to pack this. I said, so how can I help? They're like, can we get a room in the church? I said, I can do that. Yeah, I'm in charge of that. I can. So I got them a room and I sat there. I go, what do you need me to do? They're like, okay. And they started telling me, can you help put the bags out? Can you help sort? And they got one of the girls got like her group of 5 kids, and these were all seniors and juniors and whatever the group in there, and they were doing it all. So we're going to go down to the homeless, we have a concentration of homeless people. And, some of the kids like, well, my parents don't feel comfortable. Like, okay, so what do you want to do? And they're like, can we take it to this organization that deals with homeless people so they can maybe give it away? And I said, sure. I go, do they know you're coming? She's like, no. So what do you want to do? She's like, I think I should call them. I said, okay, sounds good. So they called, they set everything up. So we get there and they're like, Darryl, can we just leave everything here? I really don't want to take any bags down to the homeless. I don't feel comfortable. I said, it's your project. What do you want to do? They go, we want to do this. I said, perfect. So we left it there. This organization was very, very happy. They had more, they needed the stuff. So I went for coffee with this group of kids after, and they were like, so you could see the pride on their face. They were so like we did this. And they looked at me like, thank you for everything you do. And I'm like, I did nothing. But
that's the point.
That was the point. Yeah. But they knew, I guess I could have stepped in and said, well, I'll call them. I call that. And in fact, this other minister did that. And we had to say, slow down. This is not your project. This is for them to do it and to learn. And that's the hardest thing, is to watch them derail, watch them, take their time when things could have been done quickly, and just sit there and go, okay. But it's a learning curve. You know what I'm saying?
And kids learn from how you react. So like when you were saying earlier, Christine, like you're just impatient, you want to get it done. That's the reason that you might be impatient is maybe your parents are impatient, but your kids are going to be impatient because you are. So like we got to break the cycle. You know what I mean? Like I know my parents, my dad was extremely impatient with stuff. I mean, and my mom too was like, hurry up, let's get this done. But we're growing, and for us to realize we need to make sure that our kids are not little carbon copies of us, because God gave them a separate set of gifts than he's given to us. And for them to blossom, they've got to start experimenting on these things on their own. They've got to fail on their own. They've got to know that they can climb out of that failure on their own without you pulling them out of it. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole bunch of kids like we do today, quite honestly, that are looking for their parents to save them from stuff.
Yeah. And in return, it's not that parents don't get anything. We grow in holiness as well by exercising patience.
Christine, here's something you can do as your kids get older and as they do their chores and things around the house. Growing up, I remember my mom, she would say to me, hey, Darryl, will you sweep the floor? Okay, Mom, will do. And I'd be in my room doing and then she would just go off the handle angry that I didn't drop everything through the floor. And it took me a while to realize this. And she's like, you told me you were going to sweep, and you're not doing it. I go, Mom, you didn't say you wanted it done at a certain time. I told you I would do it. I couldn't really talk back to her. I wasn't that, but I was like, Mom, I said I was going to do it. And so of course she had to jump and do it. And finally, as an adult, we had that conversation. I said, it's on you for not saying when you needed it done and not respecting that I was in the middle of a project. Well, lo and behold, with my boys, I found myself falling into that trap. Hey, unload the dishwasher. Well, you know what? They're in the middle of something, whether it's playing a video game or which is important to them, right? It may not be important to me, but they're on a whatever. That's important to them. They're having their game time. They're having their interact, whatever it is. So I've learned to say, hey, guys, you have till, it's 3 p.m. You have till 7 o'clock to have that dishwasher unloaded, And now it empowers them to figure out their schedule. And sometimes it's 6:55 and and they're hustling their backsides, getting that thing done before 7. But you know what? They're empowered to do it. And I hate walking by that sink for 4 hours, but you know what? It's part of life. They're taking charge of their life and when they can put projects in.
Christine, how old are your kids?
6, 4, 2, and 8 months.
God bless you. And they're boys and girls? You have mixed?
My oldest is a boy and then 3 girls.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome. So here, I think that there are age-appropriate chores that you can give to kids. We always say, in Failing Forward, we have a cooking challenge, right? Well, that doesn't mean that your kid has to cook. So figure out an age-appropriate chore for them to do. Give them a challenge and really struggle through observing, especially when it's not done right. Then we can walk through the process. Then we can walk through the evaluate step. And the evaluation step is where you get to speak the truth with love to your kids and say, okay, so you said that you were going to unload the dishwasher, but I noticed that you didn't do it until right before you went to bed. Maybe I should have been more clear as a parent in saying that I wanted it done by 7 o'clock. That's my fault. So the next time that you do this for me, which will be tomorrow night, because that's the next challenge that you have, I want it done by 7 o'clock. So you can do whatever you need to do before that. You can do it early, you can do it late, but you understand that I want it done before 7. And that's how you walk with your children as Jesus walked with us and with his disciples to help them and gain understanding we have to teach and coach our children along the way. And it's never too early to start failing forward. You can start with your kids right now. So parents of any age, you're going to have teenagers someday. And if you want to have effective teenagers who are staying close to God, the lessons in failing forward, not only are they going to help around the house, but it bleeds over into our faith. Imagine what our confessions would look like if we showed up and said, well, I guess I kind of sinned, so I guess I need to ask for confession, or I think I sinned. No, we need to admit what we've done, right? And be, if we're man enough and woman enough to sin, we've got to be man and woman enough to admit it and ask for forgiveness from our hearts. And the only way that we can do that is when we admit our failures.
Absolutely. That's tough, but it's absolutely necessary. You're right.
And no, Jesus never said life's going to be easy. As a matter of fact,
no, he didn't.
He says, pick up your cross and follow me. There's nothing easy about a cross.
Darn it. That's all right. Hopefully heaven. That's and then it'll be a little easier than here. That's a really good point, because and I like what you're saying about it. Really does come down. I mean, half of parenting is setting expectations for yourself and for your children.
Yeah.
So having those expectations and then stepping back. Yeah, I like to. Yep. This is good. Okay, so where can the listeners find you? Find the book? Where's the best place to get in touch?
The easiest way to get in touch with us is at adventurecatholic.com. And you can buy the book there. It goes right to Sophia Institute Press's website. It goes right to their website to buy the book from our website. But you might as well stop by adventurecatholic.com, get your copy of Failing Forward, because you can learn more about Adventure Catholic and what it is that we do and how we can help.
Awesome.
You can also find us in Facebook under Alan Migliorato, his page, and then my page, Darryl Dziedzic.
No, we have Adventure Catholic on Facebook, too.
Cool. Well, I will, for anybody listening, I'll put the links to everything in the show notes so that you're not reaching out into the internet and trying to find who knows what.
And if you want to put my picture in there, you're welcome to. And if you do keep Alan's off, we will all understand. It's okay. He's got a face for a
radio.
Yeah, he does. He's got a face for radio, and I'm really proud of him. That
would have been so much better if Darryl would have thought of that on his own. But.
I know, but it's kind of better when you have somebody on your corner, Alan. Yeah.
Okay.
I've joked that I don't typically do videos because I'm a mom of 4 young children, and nobody needs to. That's just a mess all the time. So I personally, in my life stage, have a face for radio too. Well, thank you guys so much for talking about this, and I'm excited to dive through the book more and start to implement some of these things. It's all intuitive. Like once you see it and hear it spelled out, you're like, oh yeah, duh.
Christine, would you be willing to do a challenge with us?
Sure. Okay. Oh gosh.
Here, think of it. What is a chore that your son has that you constantly step in and save him from doing wrong?
Oh, that's a good one. What has he been? A lot. Well, to be honest, a lot of it. He's been it depends on his attention span. He is the watcher of the 2-year-old and baby when I have to do computer work.
Okay.
So I put him in charge of that.
Let's think of something that would maybe level him up just a little bit. Maybe it's unloading the dishwasher. Maybe it's loading the dishwasher. Would that be something that you'd be willing to do? Yeah.
You know what? He started loading the dishwasher, but we can have him unloaded too. Sure. I like that idea.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's do this. Can we set you don't have to do it right this second, but let's set another time where we can come back and talk to you and see if we can walk through what went on during that challenge, just so that parents can see what failing forward really is. I think it might help if they had an example to follow.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're sport enough to do it and be honest with what's going on, if you failed at something, we want to hear about it. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I like that.
Awesome. Well, maybe we could let's email each other and schedule another time for us to talk. But maybe a couple weeks, would that be enough time for you to see how this goes?
Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't take that long for him to figure it out. But yeah, sure.
Oh, a week. That's fine too. I mean, it's not for him to figure it out. It's for you to figure it out.
Yeah, that's just Who, me? What are you talking about?
No, of course, you're perfect. But
right.
We want to know when you're not. So we want to see how you failed, how he failed, how you guys came out of it. So maybe me and you
you're testing. I just went to confession yesterday. You're really testing me now.
So you
really have to drag all this back in a couple of weeks. I love that idea. So absolutely, I'm game for that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, God bless you and thank you.
Yeah. thank you so much for doing this. I really had fun talking to both of you. Again, anybody who's listening, I'll put all the links in the show notes so that you can find Alan and Darryl out in the wild.
Yes, that's where we are, in the wild.
The wilds of Orlando area.
That's it.
And again, thank you for listening, and until next time.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Christine. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Don't forget to head over to thecatholicmama.com to get your free copy of How to Talk to Your Kids About God. This handy little ebook will teach you how to broach the topic of God with your children, or how to respond to your kids when they want to talk about God, as well as give you answers to 7 of the trickiest questions about the faith that Christian parents face. You'll love the easy to understand grown-up answers, the pared down but not talked down answers you can share with your kids, plus recommended resources if you'd like to deepen your understanding of the topic. Get yours free at thecatholicmama.com.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.